This podcast is sponsored by WorthPoint. Find out what your antiques are worth at worthpoint.com.
So I'm on Skype with Paul Brown of Auction Kings. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great, Martin. How are you?
Good. It was good to see you a few months ago. Sorry we couldn't sit and record then, but here we are now. You've got another season. How many seasons have you had now?
Well, can you believe it? We just finished taping our fourth season, and it is now currently airing. We're actually just touching up the last few episodes in this season, and they are currently running. It ran last night. It runs Thursdays at 9 p.m. on Discovery. And, so far so good. Believe it or not, people are still watching. People are still liking it. And I tell you what, we still love making it. It's a lot of fun. It's given me a whole new life, whole new lease on my career.
You know, you're going to have to do a lot of adjusting when that stops, aren't you?
I am. I tell you, like I said, we just wrapped. I just set my keys down. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
There. We're just wrapping. I say wrap. We were in the process of wrapping up our fourth season. And what I found when we're in production, I have very little free time, right? But when we're out of production, because I have such a great staff, Cindy and John and Elijah, my son now works here full time. And we'll get into that in a second. He got a contract. He's on this season. They all run this place pretty well. And they've had to, because the tape and Auction Kings take so much of my time. So they've had to learn by necessity how to run this place without me. So now suddenly when Auction Kings is not taping, I walk in the office and I'm looking around. I'm like, so what's everybody doing? And they're all like, we're busy. What do you need? So I kind of I go for a run. I go to the gym. I go shopping or something. Go hang out with my wife. So yeah, I'm not working as much when we're not taping, which is great. Believe me, I am not complaining. I'm digging it.
Sure, yeah, you've got two different lives going on there. Now,
I did. I had two jobs, and like I said, the one kind of, it almost atrophied because I used to run Gallery 63. I ran every aspect of it, and out of necessity, I had a staff of 3, and that was it. Now I've got a staff of 10. And, like I said, they've learned how to run it for me. Now, of course, I'm here now. I'm here every day. It's just I'm not here at the hours that I was and in the capacity that I was. So it's been a wonderful moment for me to do some traveling. It takes time with my family and just, enjoy myself. When we're not in production, it's great. So back to your original question. Yeah, the adjustment when it finally does end, and it will. I'm under no illusions. When something begins, it always has an end. And the fact that we got 4 seasons out of it, it really makes me proud. I would have been kind of sad if we only got one season and it didn't make it. But we've done over 100 episodes, and it's almost like, okay, you know what? I'm happy with that. I'm satisfied. Do I want more? For sure. But will I cry when it's done? No. I'll be able to put my head on my pillow at night and be satisfied and be happy.
Yeah. When I stopped by there, I think you were not filming, and it was really a laid back, nice place, nice environment you have going there. And I think you were playing the guitar when I walked in, I believe, sitting on a couch or something.
Yeah, see, that's the beautiful thing about owning your own business. And an auction gallery, as you know, you're well aware of how this business is. There are days when it's chaotic and it's crazy. And there's 2 trucks coming in and 2 trucks going out, and the phone's ringing off the hook, and you're filming, and it's nuts, and your head is on a swivel. But then there are the other days, Martin, where there ain't a damn thing going on, and you can sit there on the sofa and play the guitar.
Yeah,
and it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I got to tell you, I actually talked to you before we started recording here, and I told you that I haven't had a TV for a year and a half, and I used to watch your show all the time, and so I don't know what's going on. Tell me what's been happening.
Well, I'll tell you what's been happening. We started filming season 4 probably, it must have been around August. It was late summer or early fall of 2012, and we filmed, for the rest of that year and on into, here we are in March into this year, wrapping this thing up. So it takes us about 6 months. In that time, my son, who's always worked with me, he's 19 years old, but he's kind of growing into he's his own man now. He's no longer just a dad's kid that works here, hangs around. He's a 19-year-old young man who's sharp as a tack, and so he caught the eye of some of the producers of Auction Kings, and they're like, let's kind of wrap him into this. They saw him working here, and they saw him helping me, and so they've opened the door to bring him in, and we're showing him he's learning the business and learning how to be a young man in front of the Auction Kings audience, which is really kind of cool. And he's digging it. He's a freshman in college with a television contract. Obviously he's not getting rich, but he's enjoying it. And it's fun, and the interaction that he and I are very close. Obviously he works here. He was here every day. so our interaction is I think played real well on camera thus far. He's been doing some picking of his own, which, of course, growing up in the business, I mean, the business. I mean, you kind of get inculcated in it. You just learn how to do it from osmosis just by being around. So, but we're showing his growth on the show, and he wins some, he loses some, and it's cool. So that's been going good. Of course, Cindy and John and Delphina are all here as usual. We've gotten rid of the Garretts this year. I don't know if you remember them from last season. The two Michigan brothers didn't make the cut this year, and I don't think anybody's weeping too many tears over that.
Tell me about some of the highlights of some of the things that have come through the auction gallery since we last recorded, which was, I think, over a year ago.
Let's see. Let me try and think of some things that have gone through. Oh my goodness. Have you seen the Thomas Jefferson desk? That episode was on last week. Obviously, you've not. You don't have a TV. Why am I asking? I checked this out. This is so cool, and I can spill this. Now, I had to sit on this for months because this is the best thing I ever got, ever in my life, and my whole life of antiques. Third generation playing with all this stuff. This man walks in. His name is Todd. His last name is I probably shouldn't say his last name. His name is Todd. At any rate, he comes in and he has this really nice sort of federal period desk, and it's nice looking. It looks like an old antique, but without the story, it's just a nice old desk, probably $2,000-$3,000 desk, not bad, not great, but nice old piece. Well, he proceeds to break out this folder full of information. His family had somehow acquired Poplar Forest, which was Thomas Jefferson's retreat post presidency. Okay, and when this relative of his is a great grand uncle or something they acquired it furnished, right? So it came with all Thomas Jefferson stuff, and this desk passed down through the generations. He had all the paperwork and documentation, and his aunt actually sits on the board of the Poplar Forest up in Virginia. And sure enough, this desk was Thomas Jefferson's desk. And I'm like, I'm a man of letters. I love history. I don't know how anybody could be an American and not love Thomas Jefferson. And sure enough, we got Jefferson's desk here, and it rang the bell. It was so cool.
My goodness. I know a bit about Jefferson, and I never even knew about this retreat he had.
Right. Well, he started building it, while he was still in office, and he retired to it. And of course, as you know, he was a Renaissance man. He was an architect and designer and writer and, just a general man of letters. And so he built this thing little by little and then retired to it and spent half the year there in his later years. He spent 6 months there and 6 months at Monticello. And of course, he would travel as well. But the fact that it wasn't Jefferson's dresser, it wasn't Jefferson's tea table or anything. It was Jefferson's desk. And you think about the man is, arguably the preeminent American man of letters. I mean, you think about who's going to come ahead of him on the list of our great scholars and thinkers. Not too many people ahead of him, if any. Mm-hmm. And I got his desk where he sat and wrote and thought and read, and it was so cool.
My goodness. I had a historian on this show, Thomas Jefferson, academic, and he told me that Jefferson had over 18,000 letters of his. Talk about writing letters. I mean, tell me about the bidding and the whole experience with the desk.
Gentlemen, my consignor was not a wealthy man. He had some wealthy people in his family, but he himself was not, and he was a divorced single father, and he needed some money for his kid, and so his expectations were very reasonable. I believe he said on camera somewhere, $6,000 or $7,000, which, to be is really nothing. I mean, you could almost get that. I would say you get that just with a plain desk. We got to get half that anyway with just a plain desk. So I told him, point blank, if we can really make this connection, we can establish it, and we did. Then it's going to be much higher. So of course there was bidding all over the floor. I mean, it opened at 10, and it just went up from there. I think we ended up hammering somewhere in the 60s plus the buyer's premium. So this is and not only that, I still think probably there was some more money left in that desk. And it's probably inappropriate for me to say, but this was Gallery 63. I love to sell cool stuff. I mean, that. And this was probably out of my league. This probably deserved to sell in maybe in Virginia or in New York or somewhere a little more. There's probably some money left in the desk, and I don't know if my purchaser is going to keep it forever or he's going to flip it, but I still think there's more money left in it. But needless to say, it was a nice hit for my seller to take home $65,000 or whatever it was, and I got a nice commission out of it. Plus, we got a great television show. It was a win-win-win all the way around.
If that desk had come out of the Monticello auction in 1826, it would have been a whole different story. Something that he used every day, that type of thing.
Right, absolutely.
Let's see. There was a gangster's car you were someone was going to give you.
Yeah, we had a Terraplane, a Hudson Terraplane, which was the gangster rig. That was pretty cool. I tell you what, we had recently that was kind of fun. It's not necessarily an antique. This guy had built a racing hydroplane, and so one of my things that's really great about having the job that I have is I get to play with all kinds of toys. So
I've seen that.
I always
I've known that about you.
Yes, right. I always make an agreement with the consignor that I'll sell it, but you got to let me, if it's a motorcycle, I get to drive it. If it's a car, I get to drive. Well, in this particular case, it was a boat. So we rode it up to the lake just north of the city, about 20 miles north. And we rode this sucker like crazy. And they had the chase boat with the cameras. I'm jumping the wakes left and right, things flying. And this is what I did not know about little hydroplane racing boats. And I should have probably taken a little bit more care, was I come across the wake, and then the nose dove into the other side of the wave, and I sunk that son of a gun right on camera.
Oh, my God. Well, that's really good TV, actually.
Yeah, I know. That's why I called my producer. I was like, well, I got good news and bad news there. Jeff, I said, the good news is I think you guys got some great footage. The bad news is I hope we have cash insurance for the stuff we destroy, because we had not sold the boat yet. Obviously, we ended up paying for it, and it was okay. But that was kind of a fun little episode. Oh, I'll tell you another episode that's fun that I want you when it's available on Netflix or however you do your viewing, Hulu or what have you. Is we did a 1 hour to kick the season off. We did a 1 hour pickoff special, and we took myself, my son Elijah, Cindy, and John out to the Scott's Antique Market, which you're probably familiar with. It's a big antique show that rolls through here once a month through Atlanta. I think they do a show up in Ohio as well. It's a pretty good size show. It's like 1,000 dealers. And we each had a $500 budget and 1 hour to run through there and pick the best stuff we could, and then get it back here to our auction this weekend where we sold it, to the highest bidder. And the competition was, of course, to see who could turn that 500 into the most amount of money. So that was it was a 1 hour episode. It's almost like the introduction with Elijah for the season. It was great.
That's like the Market Warriors in a way.
A lot like that. I guess. I mean, that concept is pretty obvious. It's not like reinventing the wheel, but for us, it got us out of the confines of all of us together out of the confines of Gallery 63 and kind of put us out in the field. And they edited it in a really kind of a fun way. They had the timer going on the screen the whole time, showing all four of us running through this flea market. And this place is giant. I mean, God only knows, it's 100,000 square feet, maybe 150. It's enormous. And we're running through there, checking all this stuff and trying to do the best we can. And $500 is not a ton of money, so you're kind of you can't just buy everything that's there, because most things there were more expensive. So we really had to get into it a little bit, and we brought it back here, and just as the schedule would have it, our auction was that very weekend. So we got the stuff in here on Friday, turned right around, sold it on Sunday. And, there was the profit. It was a lot of fun. They actually made for a great episode.
Well, there's so many times that I've actually gone to, like, big antique shows and walked around, and I'll spend an entire day and not buy one single thing, many times.
Oh, And don't you hate those days? That drives me crazy. Sometimes I buy something. Sometimes I'll just buy that first thing, even if I don't like it or it's not that great of a deal. I'll just buy the first thing just to have gotten that monkey off my back, just to have bought that first thing. Because if you
break the ice,
if you linger, like you say, it can go on hours, and you're like, well, shoot, I haven't bought anything yet. Then you're almost hamstrung by your own your failure to pull the trigger. I hate doing that, so I have to buy something.
Yeah, well, there's the old saying is you can't make any money unless you buy something, and sometimes you just have to take the chance. Yeah.
I love that saying. My dad taught me that when I was young, a version of that. He said, in this business, the money is made on the buy. And I didn't understand at the time. I was a child. I kind of understood it, but I was thinking, well, no, the money's made when you sell it. But like you just said, if you can have all the best customers in the world, especially at an auction, if you ain't got something to sell them, you're dead in the water. You can have the best customers in the world with a pocket full of money in each of their pockets. And if you got nothing to give them, then they're leaving empty-handed. So,
well,
yes, I love.
I have to say that in these times, you've been at this a long time as well, and in these times it's not as easy as it was to be able to go somewhere and find something and know that you're going to make money. You used to be able to know you were going to make money because dealers paid a certain amount of money for an oak table or whatever it was. It was standard, and if you could buy an oak table for $100, you could sell it for $200. That's the way it was. Sure. And today it's kind of like a gamble. You're
absolutely right. And, of course, it's a buyer's market now. Cash is king. But for me, I've found things like, and I do a certain amount of traveling, and whenever I travel, even whether it's business or pleasure, I always check out, antique stores, or even if I'm on a road trip, which I'm going on today, I'll stop at a yard sale or flea market or something and just take a walk through. And it's kind of a time, place thing. In other words, if you're in the country, I can go in the country. Of course, my store is in Buckhead, which is basically city of Atlanta. I'm in an urban setting. If I go out in the country, I can buy great old Coca-Cola buttons or something, or old cash registers, or old penny scales that in the country are not nearly as much. I bring them into here, and I can buy Coca-Cola buttons in the country for $200 or something, and nice little 3-foot round.
Yeah.
And bring them back here, and they'll bring $600 because you just don't see them as much in the city as you do out in the country. So it's a kind of a time, place thing. But at a market, you're right. You're rolling the dice. You don't know. There's no sure things anymore. That's for sure. I think maybe the internet's partly to blame for that. You can check prices. Everybody on their phones checking prices.
That's right. That's right. You walk through places like Brimfield, the big market, and you see all these people on their phones going on askart.com and different live auctioneers or Art Fact or whatever it is, looking up prices as they go, which is total different world than it was. And all that information is not really clear either. So there's all types of subtle things that can change the value of something.
Right. Well, information really is only as good as the person processing the information. I mean, I say this to my son all the time, and my son, again, he's 19, and he's grown up in a digital age where information is everywhere. Anybody, you and me, can Google anything we want right now and find some information on it. But that's a vastly different thing than wisdom and knowledge. Information is not wisdom. It's just information. So you have to process it through. Just because some artist painting brought $10,000 somewhere in the world at some point doesn't mean every doodle he ever made was worth $10,000. Right. I read that all the time. People come in. Well, I looked him up on the internet, and he's bringing $10,000. I'm looking at this painting. It's ugly. It looks like the monkey painted it with a banana, and I'm thinking, that ain't worth the $10,000. I'm sorry, brother.
Yep. What you always do is look at the painting first, and
right.
The good education is buying something for $400 and selling it for $100. That's your good education. That's your college tuition right there.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. And we've all made bad buys before. But in this business, probably like any of them, but I only know this one. You just take your lumps and roll on. I've lost money plenty of times.
Yep.
But just give me back what I can get out of it, and let me put that money into something I might win with next time. And that's cool. That's what's kind of fun. Is that's how my house is. I don't know how your house is or whatever, but when you're in this business, I buy stuff all the time, bring it home, hang it up on the wall for a little while, put it in the living room. Then when I'm sick of it, I run it back to the auction. I dump it. It's just a sort of a rotating collection, which is kind of fun.
Well, I think I might have said this on a podcast before, but I grew up in a situation where I would come home from school and our entire house was completely empty, like we were robbed. And my father would just invite these people over, and that actually only happened when everything was gone that I could see in the ground level, except the TV and stuff like that. That only happened one time, but many times you come in and a whole room was gone. My father would invite people over and sell it all.
Well, we are kindred spirits, man, because I had that exact same experience more than once. I'd come home and where the hell's the dining room set, Mom? Where are we eating? What's going on? And my dad would always bring home, he was into architectural stuff back in the day, in the 70s and 80s. And he'd buy these big back bars, great old triple arch Brunswick back bar from old taverns up in the Midwest and stuff. And that was a big part of his trade. Well, he put one in the house one time. And you can imagine this is an 18-foot long triple arch back bar, beveled glass and great old dental moldings, beautiful Corinthian capitals. And it looked like, and he had all refinished. I came home, and I swear to God, I thought like a tornado had come through there. He sold the back bar right out of the house, and it was kind of odd. And that's the business we're in. It's everything has a price, and if you're in it for a living, that's what you do. It's and it's second nature. But I can remember my friends came over, and they're like, "Well, where's all your furniture?" We'll get more, no worries, it'll come back.
Yeah, yep. My father was doing that all the way into his 70s. He still would have a party he would have what he called parties where he'd invite just dealers, and he'd still do that. Mm-hmm. Everything would have a price on it. It was
funny. I know. What a great way. I always wanted to do. My dad had a boat for a while, like a nice boat down in Fort Lauderdale, And he did that one time on the boat because yachting people are kind of like, they tend to have extra cash anyway. And he filled the boat up with really nice like Gale vases and Tiffany lamps and fine things. Not big stuff, but small fine pieces, fine sterling, that sort of thing. And I'll be darned if he didn't just have more or less a floating estate sale right there. He did pretty good with it too. I don't know why I never did it again, but that was kind of fun. But yeah, it's the business we're in. You can sell. If you can sell, you can sell.
Yeah, and it makes life interesting too. One of the questions I was thinking of is when you're not filming, what is the difference in your attendance?
Well, it's actually pretty good either way. In fact, it's probably better when we're not filming because actually it's been strong since the show aired. But when we're not filming, that means the show is probably currently on air with new episodes, which means the attendance spikes.
I see.
But really, for the past 3 years, it's probably been it's been standing room only at 90% of my auctions. I mean, only every once in a while are there seats to be had. So, like everybody else, I'm subject to the rules of the fire marshal, so I can only get 350 people in no matter what. And the fact of the matter is, Auction Kings, even on a slow week that the NCAA tournament is on, for example, or something big opposite us, even on a slow we're still getting 1.5 million households, right? So you're talking about a lot of folks that will come, and everybody loves an auction, man. And Atlanta's easy to get to. I'll tell you what I've noticed, Martin, is my crowd. I was largely an Atlanta auction house. At best, maybe regional, but now I get people, and we always make an announcement at the beginning, who here's from west of the Mississippi River, and there's hands on it. Who's here from out of the country, and hands are going up all over the place. So I've got a much bigger draw. So I bring it in whether we're in production or not.
Now, do those people buy too, or are they just there to watch?
You know what? Here's what's happened. They don't always buy a lot, but what happens is they come and they'll spend $500 to $1,000. Everybody that walks in the door will spend at least that. So, maybe they just bring something small home with them. You still, like any auction, you've got your whales. I mean, there's your half a dozen people that are there. They're your bidders, and they're on every item. They're your dealers. They're your ballers, and they're always there. And no matter how big you get, you can always still distill it down to those half dozen big shots that are going to bid on everything. And I still got that. But my crowd is so broad and so wide, I can basically bring up anything. I can bring up a sack of rocks, and I think I'd get $25 for it. That's awesome.
When I stopped in to see you there, I was down working a little bit with Worth Point down there, who has their office nearby. And, I think that whole area is just really wonderful. I really enjoyed Atlanta a lot. Really nice town.
Atlanta's a boom town. People don't realize that we have 6 million people in the metro area. So I really can draw, even just drawing from here, there's plenty of stuff and plenty of people. I think beginning with about the Olympics in '96 is when it really started booming. I mean, it just started blowing up, and a lot of redevelopment. Even through the bad years, the recession a few years back, there were still cranes. You drive downtown, they're still building buildings. There's still lots of action in this town, and it's a great place to do business. I'm fortunate to be here, and because that's so, I get a lot of pickers and dealers that come down from places that are less fortunate. I get a lot of people come down from some of the Rust Belt towns. There's great stuff up there and nobody to buy it. And they fill their truckload up and bring it down here, and they'll sell it with me with no reserve, knowing even with no reserve, knowing their chances are better here than they are up there. So I'm geographically fortunate, that's for sure.
Now, last time we talked, and I'm thinking now it was more like 2 years ago. When we talked, then you were thinking about toying with the idea of trying an online auction, at the same time. What did that end up like? And I don't think it's a really good idea for you, to be honest with you.
It's probably not. I'm kind of a dinosaur in that respect because I'm about the last one that doesn't do it. But I have a unique situation where I don't have to necessarily. Now, if I didn't have the show, would I have gone to that? For sure, because that would have been a necessity to try and find where the customers are. Obviously, I've been fortunate to be blessed with the show. So, the customers are going to come here regardless, so I don't have to. Now, when it ends and when we cease production, they cease airing it, whenever that may be, well, I go to it perhaps. But still, I'm a kind of bricks and mortar kind of guy. I don't really want to have a shipping department, to be honest with you. So that I got to worry about shipping the stuff out. I just want people to come here, buy it, load their trucks, and move on.
It's a double-edged sword because I have to tell you where I work, we have major auctions, but still, the floor is fairly empty, even though we get bids from all over the world. But there is an auction company out here that will not take any absentee bids. They will not take any phone bids, and they're not online. And I'll tell you what, there's 300 people there every time they have an auction. So
right, and you know what happens when you do it that way? The people pay their bill and they get their stuff out of your building, and that's really as valuable as anything. If you I don't want to have to go chasing down people for their payment a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after when I owe the money to the consignor now, and I need the space on my floor. So it just for me, that's just how I like to do it. And again, I may change. I'm not so set in my ways that I wouldn't consider change, but for right now, I don't need to, and I kind of like it how it is.
Well, again, like I said, it's a double-edged sword because I really have listened to and watched what's happened with the depleting audiences that actually attend sales today.
Right.
And you can also get your images online that are just so revealing that you actually don't need to hold the stuff in your hand a lot of the time. So, there is a real turn to that point, but I really like to, if it's me, I like to have an auction where there's a lot of people.
I do too. It's just like when you want to go to a restaurant or somewhere, you want to go to the place that's crowded. You don't want to go to the place that's dead. I think I told you this story last year. Actually, probably it's been 2 years now or even more. I was up in New York with my wife selling a painting at Sotheby's, and they were selling paintings for $10 million, and one went for over 20, and there were all 14 people in the audience because everybody's bidding online. It was like watching paint dry. It was dull, and I like the party atmosphere of the auction. So
yeah. Besides, do you have free food or something there? I remembered something about that.
Yeah, well, of course we have. Well, no, we don't have free
beer.
Food, we have free
Is
alcohol.
It beer? Yeah.
I don't have a liquor license, so I just give it away.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to get people drunk, just to, it's something that my auctions are kind of a social event. It's 300 people here, and some of them have become friends. A lot of them have become friends. Some of them become friends with each other. And it's nice to enjoy a glass of wine on a Sunday. I like to, in Atlanta, again, geographically I'm blessed, but also 9 months out of the year we got great weather. So I'm on a Sunday when most people are not working, and it's a beautiful day, and some people like to go to the lake, some people like to play golf, some people like to go to the park. So I need to offer them sort of the best alternative, not just to come buy stuff, but come hang out and have a social day. And so I get, I have a friend of mine that owns a restaurant. He comes in here. And I have a full kitchen, so he does it. He opens up a small restaurant. We give away beer and wine, and we hang around. We're hanging around for 2 hours before the sale. Music's going, people are hanging around, and a couple hours after the sale, and it becomes almost an event. And not almost, it is an event. That's what I like about it. That's the one day a month, man. Actually, I do 2 auctions a month, but auction days are the only days of the month where it's like really, really fun to come to work. I mean, every day is an adventure, but auction days are like party days. It's great. Yes, it's hard work, but people are everywhere, and you get the energy in the room, and deals are happening, and I like that kind of thing. So absolutely, I make it fun.
Yeah, that's always great. I was invited over to to a couple's house a while back, and they had some things for sale, and they said, You're our favorite auctioneer. And I said, oh, really? That's very nice of you. And they said, that's where we met. And, we got married. So that was pretty awesome. It's fun how you can change.
I've had a proposal on stage. I actually have had more than one proposal on stage at auction, one fairly recently. You get all kinds of, I think auction people, and I think you'd probably agree with it. I love auction people. People that buy things at auction or like to go to auctions or in the auction business are kind of a different breed. It's like it's not a retail setting, and you get more of a sort of a freewheeling, wheeler dealer type and a little bit of a maverick type, which I enjoy that kind of personality. You get entrepreneurs, you get people willing to take a chance, people that understand as is, where is, and all the good and the bad that means. It can mean great, and it can mean trouble. But I'm a big boy, I can handle it. When I bought something that has a scratch in it, I can handle it. The flip side of that is I bought something and I'm way under the money because I was paying attention. So you get that kind of personality, that kind of persona hanging around, and I gravitate to those people anyway. So I do too. I love that.
I do too, and it doesn't matter where you are. I've been to auctions in California, Colorado, down your way. Everywhere you go, auction people are fun. I agree with you 100%.
They are fun people.
Yep, and that's why it's a little bit sad to see the audience is depleting here and there. So hopefully that will change and more people will go. And anyway, it's been a real pleasure, Paul. Always
Thanks,
enjoyable.
Bart.
And this won't be the last time. I think you've been on the show probably more than anyone else. And
all right. All right. Thank you very much. I'm honored, man. Thank you very much. And, hey, do me a favor. Send me a link to it when you pop it up there.
Sure thing. Hey, when will you know if season 5 is in play or not?
We usually, I can't imagine I would know much before. What are we in March, April, May? Maybe late May would be typical for them to let me know, but we'll see what happens. It's always, what have you done for me lately? It's what depends on what the ratings are. So far this season, they've been pretty doggone good, though. I'm real happy with it. And I attribute that partly because, again, to my son, adding a little bit new life into the show, injecting some youth and some, things get stale. I'm not saying we're stale, but, 4 seasons is a long time. We need to have, and he's brought this new blood, this new energy into it. I love it. So hopefully that'll give us another couple seasons.
That's great. All right, Paul, a real pleasure. All right.
Take care, Martin. See you.
This podcast is sponsored by WorthPoint. Find out what your antiques are worth at worthpoint.com.